Happy Monday morning, everybody. Sherm here, the Crazy Asian. You're on with On. We have special guest Pakula here, a.k.a. Birdie. And so thanks again, Birdie, for coming in and taking the time to meet with me today.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting.
Absolutely. So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, for those of the people that might not be familiar with who you are?
Well, my name is Pakula. I am a newly licensed nail technician here in the Wausau area. I've been doing nails as a hobby for probably about 7-8 years now. But I finally just had the time now to, go back to school and get licensed.
Gotcha. So what made you decide to go out and start your own business?
You know, that's actually the question I ask myself all the time, too. My issue back in the day when I was getting my nails done was I could not find a salon that I liked. Either the designs that they were familiar with I didn't like, or, that was one of the reasons. I just could never find somebody to do what I wanted. And also the fact that it's a larger salon where there's clients waiting, there's walk-ins all the time. I just felt like I was rushed all the time because I couldn't find just one person that I could just go to and have them done. And, the time is taken on me and myself only. So after I got licensed, I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what, I could go just work at a salon, get numbers in. I could make pretty good money because, they already have a clientele built. But then again, I thought back to when I was a client. I like having personal time with, whoever is doing my service, whether it's hair, makeup, whatever. So I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to start from scratch, start from zero, and go from there. Because, my thing is, it's the fear that everybody's afraid of. The fear of failing. That's where the issue is. And so I'm like, I'm just going to do it. Because if I sit and contemplate, I'm going to regret not doing it. And at least if I do it and I fail, I at least know that I tried. So that's why I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to jump into it. And, it's been pretty good. It's been almost a year now since I've been open. And it's getting there. Not to where I want it yet, but definitely getting there.
So for you really saw the opportunity in the marketplace of having just a better service model than what currently was existing in our community.
Yep, because, there's already hairstylists out there that have their own studios, right? Or they're renting a chair where they can give the personal experience for their clients. There's, for example, now lashes are a huge deal. There's people in that now. Makeup also, like Vanessa, she's got her studio. So, I just didn't see, especially in our area, it's such a small town. I really didn't see, you go to any corner, there's a bigger nail salon, almost in, every block now, but there's nothing like this yet in this area. And so I'm like, that's what's going to make me different is, having my personal space to give, that quality time to my clients.
And that's amazing that you decided that you wanted to still stay true to that, even though now running your business, that the more people that kind of come through, the quicker, the more money you get, right?
Right.
And so that's really, speaks volumes about what you decided to stay true to was that service, that touch.
Yep.
So one of the cool things is that you and I are connected on Instagram.
Yes.
Before we even knew that, hey, we're going to do this show together, right? And so I'm just fascinated. Number one, I love nails, love them well done. Not for myself personally, but for other people. And I just find it's just a really, really unique skill set. And so you have a lot of artistry in your nails. It's very creative.
Yes.
So where does that come from?
That kind of just started as, like I said, a hobby, right? Like when the whole gel polish thing blew up when I first came out, I was crazy about that. That's actually what I started with. And then as, social media became more popular, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, that's when I started seeing more and more of the nail artists introducing the line work, the different styles of nail art. And I mean, I went crazy over that because I'm okay, that's so different. Everybody is used to flowers or, you know, just like dots and, you know, simple lines here and there. But like nobody was wearing that yet. So that to me was like huge because it was, you're basically painting like a painting on your nails. So I was pretty fascinated by that. So I kind of tried doing it on myself. Because again, you know, going into the salons around where I was living at the time, nobody like knew how to do it because it was so new. And so I think because it's so different, that's kind of what drew me to it. I've always been different from the crowd. Like I never really fit in school, you know, to be honest. Like high school, I kind of was like the black sheep, you know. I didn't click with the trends that were there. I didn't, you know, quite fit in correctly to any of the groups. So I've always been different. And so, you know, like, yeah, with that sort of artistry, I was just like, wow, like that's very different. And, you know, I just fell in love with it. And, you know, it took me a long time to, you know, get the knowledge and to get the practice to do what I do now. I'm not perfect, but I mean, compared to back in the day, 7-8 years ago, oh my gosh, there's a huge improvement.
So what's interesting here is that your hobby has now become your full-time gig.
Yes.
And so you mentioned the fear of failure, and that is such a debilitating emotion for so many people.
Right.
So was there maybe a moment for you that made you decide, I got to do this despite the fear, despite the overanalyzing of it, I got to do it?
Yeah, they're, you know, especially being from an Asian family, right? I mean, typical Asian families want you to at least get your 4-year degree, if not better, you know, and work a typical 9-to-5 job because it's guaranteed.
Yes.
Guaranteed income. You'll be comfortable, if not set for life, depending on your pay grade at the time. But like that's what I was expected to do. You know, my parents always said, well, we came to the U.S. with no English, you know, no knowledge of how the world works on this side of the world, no English at all. And we were able to get through high school, go to college, get our degrees, and get a good job. So we need you to do the same, if not better. So that was kind of the expectation for me. And, you know, the rest of my siblings too. So, I mean, you know, you grow up knowing that, you know, you are supposed to finish high school. You're supposed to go to college. You're supposed to get a good job. And I tried that. I always struggled to find a major that I was good in or would be interested in, you know, and, you know, straight out of high school, I'm like, I know I'm going to go to college. I don't know for what. I don't know what I'm going to major in, but I know I'm going to go. So right after high school, I did get my associates in accounting because I was good with numbers. I love computers. You know, it's not what I initially wanted to do. You know, I did not want to become an accountant. I didn't want to do paperwork or sit in front of a computer for the rest of my life. But that was something I knew I was going to be good at. So I went just to have something. And then, you know, after that, if I did end up liking it, then yeah, I could carry on to a 4-year degree. But you know, after that, it just didn't click for me. I'm like, you know, it's just not what I wanted to do. You know, my job that I had was great. The pay was great. Benefits were great. But it just didn't, like, catch me. It just wasn't right. I just did not feel satisfied with my life yet, you know, because I'm like, I can't be stuck here. This is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I actually quit that job eventually and enrolled in school again, but this time for teaching, because, you know, my mom's a teacher. My dad is also in the education field too. So I'm like, okay, you know, I do like kids. I have a daughter, and, you know, I love the way they grow. I love the way they think. Just everything about their learning process, it was so amazing to me because they just learn so fast. So I started that. I was part-time in school for, I think, about 2 years. And then, you know, I was planning to go until the end. You know, if I would have continued even part-time, and then going full-time eventually, I would have been done in spring of next year already. But, you know, like, what really set me back was, I was still a little bit unsure because I wasn't sure how I would do with a full classroom. because that's nothing that I've ever done before. So I was still a little bit unsure, but what really set me back was my grandmother had passed away during that time too, when I was in school. And that, when she passed, because she's the first one out of our, family, she's first generation for us. So with her passing, that really just, like, it hit me real hard. That showed me how short and precious life really was. So, I was living in Stevens Point at the time, but after she passed, a couple months later, I actually decided to take a break from school just to kind of really figure out what I actually wanted. And so I took a year off. I moved up here, took a year off, started working, and the thoughts were still there. Like, life is so short. What can I do? What am I going to do to really make me happy? Because I was content. Income was fine. Family, where I was living, everything was fine. It's just me personally, I just wasn't happy with myself and where I was. So, I kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, God, I don't know what I want to do. I love hair, makeup, nails. I love it all. But, it's so risky to go into that because it's booming right now and there's so much competition. I don't know if I want to go back to school for, the education anymore because I just don't know if I'm set for, being a teacher in a full classroom. So I went back and forth and, then finally my friends, my boyfriend, they were just like, you know what? Just go into nails. You love it. You get your nails done. You drive an hour and a half. You're the crazy girl who drives an hour and a half every month to get your nails done. Just do it because you've been doing it, but then you've been so busy. That's why you're paying people to do it now for you. Just do it. And so I'm like, that's true. I was currently living with my parents at the time, so I'm like, I have no bills to pay. And I'm like, I will just do it. But it's funny because, I got a massage done at Serenity Now, which is actually where I ended up going to school.
Okay.
She has a nail program there. So it kind of was just meant to be, I guess, because I had met her and talked to her, and the program she had fit my schedule perfectly. We were able to work pretty well with, the schedule of the course. So I found her, and 2 weeks later I quit my job that I had and just started going to school.
That's amazing. So what's interesting is that there was this battle internally
Yes.
of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Because that's not the normal path.
Right.
As described by parents and probably
Yep.
even grandparents, right?
Mm-hmm.
The whole opportunity of being here in the U.S. in order to succeed, you got to go do further schooling, right?
Right.
Go to get out of high school and go to more school.
Yep.
And for a lot of people, it just isn't in the right realm.
Right.
And what's interesting too is that, as we know in accounting, typically income's going to be pretty good
Yes.
versus
Yep.
someone that decides to open up their own salon,
Right.
their own business.
Oh yeah, totally different spectrums. And that was the battle with me because I'm like, I can do this, get a degree, get certified, and be making lots of money, or I could go into something that I actually enjoy doing, and it may or may not succeed. So that was really the battle I had for many years. Many years. Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like you have a great support group that really just encouraged you to go all in on this hobby that you were having on the side.
Yes.
And so how did you, were they close friends? You mentioned like a boyfriend. What were they doing professionally? Were they entrepreneurial as well?
No. Nope. My friends, they worked regular 9-to-5 jobs. My boyfriend worked a regular 9-to-5 job as well. So, but I think it's just the fact that they knew how passionate I was about this field. And they believed that I could make a change, that I could do it. Whereas I'm like, I don't know if I can do it. That's the type of person I am. I'm like, God, I have all these plans. And, I see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I don't want to go through the tunnel because it's hard. It's, and I think that's why our parents never wanted us to do that because it is so risky. They don't want it to see us fail. They'd rather us just, I guess you could say, take the safer path out, for where it is guaranteed. And so, Like when like I said, I was living with them at the time, so they noticed my schedule changed. Like, you're not waking up early anymore. Did you quit your job? I'm like, no. I'm like almost 30 at the time. I'm like, gosh, I'm still scared of my parents. But yeah, they're like, Birdie, did you quit your job? I'm like, no, just a change in schedule. But usually I worked late and I wasn't home yet when they got home, and so and then eventually they're like, no, we think you quit. I'm like, yeah, I still work part time. I'm at the bar, but I did because I'm going back to school. And then they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you could just stay here and go back to school. I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to school for nails. What? No, Birdie, you're not gonna make any money doing that. You're not gonna make any money doing that. I'm like, yeah, but I like it, and I will. I'm like, just trust me. So, even now, my dad, when he finally, at first he was like, oh, you should just probably go back to school, or just get a job. But, once he finally saw, it's almost a year later now, he finally saw my new studio, and he's like, oh, it's different, because his light just, the light in his face finally just showed, and, total 180, switch, because, he was so, oh, just go back to school, go back to, go to work, but the moment he saw my studio, he was like, oh, this is nice, oh, Birdie, you should do this, oh, put this picture here, oh, make it more homey, do this and that, and I'm like, wait, I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, but so they're slowly getting there. I think it's like I said, they did come to the U.S. with nothing, and they have a life for themselves now. They just want the best for us, so I totally get it. But then they're finally, I guess the times have changed. They're finally starting to see that there is more out there than just your 9 to 5.
Well, that's a tough conversation because, as you mentioned before, your parents are in education.
Yes.
So there's they love it. They love it.
Oh my gosh.
They see the value of it.
Yep.
And so it's amazing that they've been able to, not in a sense be convinced, but as much as their mind's been open that entrepreneurship has a mainstay in stability, in creating that stability.
Correct. And especially being in Wausau too, it's not as common for young professionals to just jump out there and do it. Compared to Minnesota, for example, right? There's many entrepreneurs out there. Mm-hmm. Milwaukee, there's many young entrepreneurs out there. It's more, I guess, normal there because it's a bigger area. But in Wausau, I'm finally just starting to see more and more of us young professionals, jump out there into business.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you bring up, because obviously being from that Asian community, right? Mm-hmm. Hmong community, getting that education post-high school is so important.
Yes. In
order to make it to a stable career and provide for yourself and your family.
Yep.
And so talk a little bit about that for you, because that's an internal struggle that a lot of people don't know how to talk to their folks. Right. Because that is, not that you necessarily wanted your parents' approval to do what you're doing, mm-hmm. but you want them in a sense to kind of be on your team, to be on your side.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that's right. That is probably one of the biggest issues with Asian kids and their parents is they want so much because they went through so much to get here, to bring us here, right? So, it is hard. It's very hard to try to do what what the parents want and expect, while still trying to do something that we want. I talked to my parents in high school. They would always ask me, oh, what do you want to do after high school? What do you want to, what kind of career do you want? And, I loved music. I love art, so I'm like, oh, I want to become a singer or an artist. And, I was kind of obsessed with volleyball at the time, so I'm like, oh, maybe a volleyball player. They're like, those are just hobbies. So I'm like, oh. So it kind of shuts you down, because they're like, oh, yeah, we support you now because you're still a kid and that's just a hobby and, we'll come then, whatever, support you. But, no, after high school, you have to do something else. So it's like, it is really hard. It really is. And, there's some kids who are very brave and they, I guess, are the rebellious ones. They're just like, no, mom and dad, I'm going to do this. you just watch me and I'll come back when I succeed. You know, like there's kids who are like that. And then there's people like me who are like, oh, I guess. So, you know, we kind of like try to satisfy both worlds, you know, our own and our parents. And we go more towards what we think is right because they think it's right, right? And so, but, you know, in the end, if, you know, maybe it is something that we end up liking, you know, maybe it's not. So it kind of, I mean, it's still that risk again, you know, like, do you want to take a chance and go into that field where your parents know or think that you're going to succeed in and hope that you like it? Or are you going to, you know, follow your own course and hope that that works out? It really is hard.
And really, you're just balancing those two worlds
of
satisfying the parental like opinions and their thoughts at the same time trying to be true to yourself.
Right.
Which is really interesting that you had brought up that you've kind of have noticed that you're a little bit of a black sheep.
Yep.
And so when did you decide to just embrace that and say, okay, this is just who I am. I don't need to try to fit in.
You know, it took me a long time.
Okay.
You know, that kind of was, you know, growing up, because I'm the oldest, right? In my family, I'm the oldest. And so I didn't have anybody older to look up to in my family.
Yeah.
You know, I had a lot of cousins, so, and they were older, so I kind of followed their footsteps, you know, growing up. You know, they always saw the new trends, and then I would kind of just follow them. And then, you know, in school too, you know, we had friends. But, you know, when I tried, I guess, following the crowd, like I said, it just didn't fit. So, you know, so that was kind of a battle that I had, you know, up until my 20s, really. You know, it wasn't until after high school and then getting into a professional field, you know, and getting into the corporate world where I was finally able to be more comfortable in my own skin. Because, you know, as an adult, it's just so different. It is very different. You know, and then going to college too. You know, I went to college right away after high school, and it's a totally different world out there. Because, you know, like because I was 18, right? Going into this college, I'm like, oh God, I'm like the new person in school again. So, you know, you still have kind of that same mentality, like, oh, well, what am I going to wear today? What am I going to look like today? What kind of hair, makeup am I going to do? So in the beginning, you know, I was like so worried about waking up early to get ready for school. And then I get to my class and I'm like, God, everybody's in like their sweats and their gym shorts. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, oh, okay. So then I'm like, okay, maybe I can be a little more laxed here. So it was, it really wasn't until college life and, you know, my early 20s where I was finally like, you know what? Screw the world and what they think. Like, I'm just going to do what I want to do to make me happy. So, I mean, I wasn't really into makeup yet at the time, or like nails or hair, whatever at the time yet. But, you know, even when I started getting into it, I'm like, you know, I'm not going to make myself up every day. Like, if I'm going to go on errands, I'm just going to run. If I'm going to go to school, whatever, I'm just going to go. Like, if I have the time and I want to do it, I'll do it. If not, I'm okay with how I look, with my messy bun and my sweats on. Like, I don't care. So, yeah, it took a while. You know, like some kids, they find themselves right away in high school, right? Because elementary to high school is so different. So they do find themselves right away. They find their passion right away, and that's what they aim for, and they're very successful because, you know, and they stick to it. But, you know, for me, it was really hard. It was hard. You know, because I had the whole education frustration, you know, the career path ordeal, and I also did not, I think the main thing is I didn't find myself yet because I was so busy trying to fit in or trying to satisfy my parents' dreams, you know, that I kind of forgot about myself. And then, you know, I had my daughter pretty young. I was only 19 when I had her, so I couldn't find myself anymore because I had her. You know, and then after her came dogs, and then it just kind of went from there. I had to work. So it was just busy, go all the time. So, you know, life really just distracted me from myself. So, you know, although I finally was able to be more comfortable in my skin at the time, I just still wasn't satisfied with where I was in life. And that was the struggle until now. So I mean, yeah. So it took me a long time, but like I tell everybody, I just blossomed last, but it's fine.
I love it. So what's interesting that you talk about wanting to fit in, and being an immigrant, being a minority, you really never fit in.
Right.
But yet that's kind of the attitude that people want to have for themselves, is this idea of fitting in.
Yes.
And so how have maybe your siblings, because they're watching you kind of embrace who you are and just be you apologetically, has that been a good influence? Because you kind of mentioned you looked at some of your cousins, but you didn't really have any siblings in your family, right, as a good example.
Yeah. Like I got married pretty young too, and so the only one I actually did grow up with was my brother, the second child of our family, right? But he was still pretty young too when I had left. So unfortunately, I wasn't there when they grew up. And I didn't really come back until they were already all grown. And so, the youngest is a teenager now too, but, so they're still pretty young, the younger two. But, ever since I did come back, I try to make them know that it's okay to be different. Not that they're weird or different or anything, but, just in the fact that you are who you are, and it's not just high school. Yes, you have to get through high school. High school does have issues, everybody goes through that. But, as long as you stay true to yourself, that's really what's going to matter for the rest of your life. You have to be true to yourself. And so, I try enforcing that all the time. I do try to do my best so that they can see that I'm here working hard, that I'm not just out doing whatever and, wasting my life away, so that they don't do that. I enforce the thought of, you have one life to live, stay true to yourself, do what makes you happy, surround yourself with people who embrace that too, who support you, who want to be around you, who also makes you laugh and make you happy. And so I do try. I try. I try to be there as much as I can now, now that I am back up here in Wausau. And so, I tell them not to follow my footsteps, but to see me as an example now, and just, they have to work hard. You have to work hard, do what you like, what you enjoy, and, that's really where you're going to succeed, is what you're good at.
And what's interesting is I think sometimes when people see entrepreneurs, they think that it's about complete freedom with schedule, where I bet you're more busy now running your own salon than you were being an employee.
Oh yeah, because being an employee, it's routine kind of, right? You wake up, get ready, go to work. You have a set schedule. You got break times, lunch time. But at the end of the day, when it's time to clock out, you clock out and you go home. And then work is at work, and your outside life is your outside life. And I'm the guilty one too. I actually thought that. I'm okay. Once I start a business, when I start making money, it's gonna be, I'm gonna be done. I don't have to work anymore. I am my own boss. Like, I can work when I want, not work when I don't want, take vacation when I want. That was my mindset. I was looking at the end of, the spectrum, right? I'm looking at when I'm at the top for years from now. That's where my mind was. Which was great, because at least I knew that that's what was coming in the far future. But, so I jumped into this thing, and yes, I have the accounting experience, right? So financing, I was fine. I knew what I was doing, financially. I knew all that. But what I didn't know was, like you said, it's more work. Yes, you have the freedom of being your own boss. But then that's when you really have to have the motivation to do the work. Because, I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't have clients this day, so I'm just going to sit at home and do nothing. And so sitting at home the one day doing nothing kind of went to, I'm going to take tomorrow off too. I'm going to take the day off too. So it kind of was like I was getting lazy because I had the free time to do it. And then, you know, that was right away when I opened. And so I worked so hard on marketing when I first opened. And then as I started getting more lazy, I didn't do anything anymore. You know, there was no social media, there was no marketing, there wasn't me going out there trying to find people. Like, I just kind of became lazy. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I can't do that. There's work to do, Birdie. Like, get up. You know, like, even if you don't have clients for the day, you still got work to do. Like, it's really, you have to have the motivation to continue working on the business. Otherwise, the business isn't going to go anywhere. You know, like, I think that's one of the biggest problems with people who first open a business is they don't know how to market themselves. Or they're kind of like me where they know that they're the boss. They know they can close or open when they want. So they take advantage of that. And then they kind of forget to come back to the mindset of working on the business. Because the business isn't going to work itself. And, you know, we have to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Like, I don't have employees. It's just me. But I still have to try to get myself up every day to go. I love what I do, but, you know, just having the freedom of going when I want or when I don't want, that's really, like, that was a hard thing for me to do. Because I kind of did take advantage of being my own boss.
Yeah. Well, and then it's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah.
That you can be there for your daughter and at all her events because you can plan it. At the same time, we can vacation ourselves completely out of business.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
so you're 1 year in. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
What are maybe some thoughts that you would give to any aspiring entrepreneurs? Lesson learned your first year. First one, that sounds like, is understanding that, hey, it's going to take work. So even though you love it, even though there's passion behind it, it's still going to require you to get out of bed and come to work.
Yes. Yeah. I think one of the biggest advices I would give to new entrepreneurs would be time management, for sure. You know, you have to schedule what you're going to do so that, you know, and what I used to do is I just put everything in my phone. You know, I had reminders, everything was in my phone. But even that wasn't good enough for me anymore because, you know, we don't look at the calendar every day until the alert comes up and it's like, oh, crap, like I have to do this. So it's, you know, you really have to manage your time. You know, you may or may not get customers or clients right away. You know, some businesses are lucky, they open and they're booming right away. You know, and then there's some like me who kind of, it takes time, you know, to gain the customers and to gain the clients. So you really have to schedule in your timing. You know, if you know you need marketing and you need to market yourself, you have to schedule that time in. Okay, this time during this day or these days during the week, I'm going to set that time to, you know, to market myself. You know, you need to go supply shopping or whatever. Schedule that in on a paper calendar so that you can see everything laid out. That worked better for me than just putting it electronically onto my phone because I was able to see exactly what my schedule for that week or that month looked like. And so I found that easier for me. And I you know, by seeing that too, I also felt more motivated to do because I could see ahead into the future what I needed to do for the rest of the week or the rest of the month. So time management definitely is a huge thing that, you know, that we all need to do. And then also not giving up. You know, I did have days where, you know, in the beginning when I opened, I didn't have many clients. So I did have weeks where I had no clients at all. And so, you know, that was, you know, like I was like a couple months in then, and I did feel like giving up. I was just like, you know what? Maybe I should just close for now, go work at a salon, you know, that's established already, get more experience, maybe gain clients then, and maybe after a year or two, then maybe I'll be ready. So I wanted to give up. I did because I didn't see, you know, not that I failed already, but I didn't see myself getting, you know, it wasn't picking up at all. I didn't see it going anywhere yet at the time. And so I did want to give up. And so, there's days where I just sat at home, sat on social media and pouted about it, and, but what really picked me up was, my boyfriend was he's a huge supporter. He always tells me, everything will fall into place eventually. Everything will fall into place eventually. Just keep doing what you do. You're doing great. One of my aunts, she was a huge encouragement too. And she was just like, you do great work. Just, once people see your work, they're going to come to you. Just keep doing what you do. And then, and then I started finding more motivational social media pages to follow too, just to kind of give me a little bit more of a boost. So, surrounding yourself with the right people definitely will help too. During those down times when you do feel like you're failing and you do feel like you're giving up. But like I tell everybody, you haven't failed until you do give up. So, you just gotta keep going. You gotta, you're gonna have the days where you don't want to do anything because it's not working out the way you want it to. But you just gotta get up and keep pushing forward, and just do better.
It's interesting that you'd mentioned that number one is that the actual physical calendar was more powerful for you than the digital one because you could see it all laid out there, and you could see, oh my gosh, I'm taking way too much time off.
Right.
Or I'm not putting any marketing in for the week. So even though I'm really busy with all these appointments, if I don't do any marketing, I'm going to have nothing in 2 weeks.
Yes.
And that's really important to understand. We'll talk a little about, your thoughts on marketing here in a bit. And I think it's so critical that, you have a great support group, right? Family, a significant other that's there to be there for you. At the same time, you found that even on social media, you could leverage that tool to put some positive things into your life.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really powerful. Is there any particular hashtags that you follow?
One of my favorite ones would probably be, I think theirs is Boss Babes.
Okay.
They have a lot of motivational quotes and memes and things for young professionals just starting out.
Yeah.
So that was one of the major ones that I followed. Another one actually is, she's also on social media, but she's a really good friend of mine. She is very, very huge into health and fitness right now, and she has been for a few years. And following her also, because she lives about 40 minutes away, so we don't see each other every day.
Okay.
We don't talk every day. But she's one of the friends where you see each other and it's like you never left each other. But we seeing her posts about her weight loss journey and what motivates her really gives me motivation too. Not only for my fitness goals, but for my business goals too. It really is very motivational to see how other people have overcome, their, some of their darknesses in their lives too.
Yeah, because we're all struggling with something that we want to get better at. And so even though, to your example, even though she's really into health and fitness, you can then translate that to, okay, I'm, overweight in my business, or I'm too slim in my business, I need to get better. And so you can kind of translate that motivational path. At the same time, I think one of the biggest struggles for a lot of people, especially when we're entrepreneurial, is we want the success right now, right? We want that freedom to come and go as we please. We want 10 grand coming in a month, and we're barely showing up. And so that comes down the road as we've built out the business, and we have employees that are helping run the shop when we're not there. And so being able to recognize that, okay, so she lost weight, it probably took her months or even years. And for me on my business, it's going to take the same amount of time. It might even be years to make it happen.
Right.
I'm reminded of Buck Knight, who started Nike.
Oh, yeah?
10 years in, they're making $4 million. And he has to borrow money from one of his employees' parents. Borrowed $5,000 from him, and they're pulling in $4 million of revenue. And he literally says he's got this check. He goes back to the office and starts picking it up from their house, and he felt like, just a dog with his tail between his legs. and he goes, I did not want to cash that check. But he's like, I knew if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to make payroll. And so here he is 10 years into running his business, and he's got employees, he's got millions in sales, and it's still just a struggle. And it probably wasn't until about the 12th year that Nike really took off and kind of started standing on its own. So it's really important. It's really interesting that you talk about that, not giving up, because I think it's so in our face that first year, but it never goes away.
Right.
And so talk a little bit about marketing, because it sounds from what I see with you, you're active on it. What are some of the marketing tips that you would give to other people that are out there?
What I started with was social media. So I mean, my ads that I put out there was Facebook.
Okay.
I did do Facebook. Actually, is probably one of the best ones out there because it's cheap. It's cheap. It reaches many people. So I started with Facebook ads. So I did a little bit here and there. A couple weeks at a time because it was affordable, and then constantly posting, constantly sharing. I, being in the service, industry, offering a service, I actually, did artwork and did designs on myself so that when I'm out there and they ask me, where I got my nails done, well, I can tell it, well, it's me. Yeah. And then,
so you're your own billboard.
Yes, basically. Yep. And that's free too. Doing it. I mean, not technically free because you're using products, but I mean, essentially, yeah. So that was another thing too. I wore what I did. And then, word of mouth also is very important. The clients that I have, having them walk around with my nails and just word of mouth from them, that's huge. Honestly, I think word of mouth advertising is more powerful than any advertising you could ever do. Word of mouth is definitely important because, you have, it's like they say, you have one good review, it reaches maybe 5. You have one bad review, it reaches 20.
Yeah.
So it's huge. Word of mouth is huge. And then, I actually did reach out to one of the girls at the Wausau Daily Herald as well. She was kind enough to come in to interview me and put my story out in the paper too, which was also very helpful. Because social media, not everybody uses it. Word of mouth, not everybody, pays attention to nails, right? But the paper, many people read the paper. So that was great to be able to be headlined on there. I was on the first front page actually then, so that was great for me. Nice. I met quite a lot of new people from the paper, and so that was really good too. But I mean, you have to continually work on it. If you're not posting on social media, I mean, that's a loss right there. If you're not, especially in the service industry, if you're not wearing what you are trying to produce, number one, you're never going to know what the quality of it is, or whether or not something is working if you're not wearing it yourself. But yeah, just being able to wear that and showing it off, wherever you go, that's also advertising there. So I mean, it's very social media oriented now. It's very easy to get out there. I think it's just some people aren't aware that that's there, and then also you have to market yourself as the person. As the owner, you have to market yourself too, not just the business. Because you can sit behind a screen, post all day on social media, but if they don't know who's producing it, sometimes that can draw them back too from coming.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that you mentioned the value of being able to show your product.
Yes.
Right? So there's that old phrase, a picture speaks 1,000 words.
Yes. Yep.
A video, probably millions.
Right.
And so I know your recent post was kind of red, white, and blue.
Yeah, the bandanas.
Yeah, but it was really cool because you showed almost like an opening of the hand.
Right.
And so it was a very engaging post versus some of the other ones where they're just picture.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's not just a photo because you've actually signed your name on it.
Right.
So there's this. So if someone decides to, screenshot that,
right, or share it,
it's got your brand on it, right? And so that's a really important piece. It's very subtle, but it's very important to
Right.
do. Mm-hmm. Do you do a lot of your video capture and then editing of photos on your phone?
I do.
Okay.
Everything's taken with the phone.
Okay.
Like occasionally when I have the time, I'll take the camcorder in and, I'll record myself doing my nails just so there's, more video out there, just to kind of show the process of what I do. But, but majority of every day, all the time, it is my phone.
Okay.
Video, pictures, editing, my logos, everything is inputted into the phone and then saved on there.
That's amazing. So you're like, if you think about it, almost like 20 years ago, you're running an entire marketing campaign from your cell phone.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yep.
And sometimes it costs nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of the posts going live, the videos, it costs nothing if you decide to boost it with, paying a Facebook ad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're spot on. I think we're in a community where, newspaper's still powerful.
Yes.
Sometimes the television can be powerful, depending on the audience, right? So, but ultimately for you, you're trying to get after all the women out there.
Yes.
And any kind of men that actually care about their nails.
Right.
Where in our community, there's just very few men that care about their nails.
Yeah.
They'll bite it first. That's just the community we live in. At the same time, I think you're smart in saying, okay, hey, I can spend $20 on a Facebook ad and reach thousands here locally.
Right.
Or I could spend $500 on a billboard
Right.
that I don't know if anybody's looking at it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And so there's just, you just got to be smart with, the play of money. Ultimately, it's limited. Yep. And so you just got to do what's gonna go. Mm-hmm. So one of the interesting things that you mentioned when it came to some of your marketing was promoting yourself and your business.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that, because I know for some entrepreneurs, they're like, I want my life, me, to be not on screen,
Oh, yeah.
And so how do you balance that?
I kind of, before I started this, right, even before I was, on social media, my mom was always like, oh, I don't need people to know who I am. I don't need them to know where I live. I don't need them to know what I do. I just want a private life because I just don't want people to know what I do. So I kind of grew up with that kind of same mentality just because my parents were kind of like that. So when I was on social media, I'm so careful about what I post and what pictures I post. I was so private until social media totally boomed. And I'm like,